So our first speaker of the afternoon, Lalit, is back, and this time he's going to be sharing with us insights from planning input studies from visitors seeking learning exchanges with Auroville.
Good afternoon. The line I am trying to take or put forward is how Auroville's development growth is happening and the role not only us as a community members, but how others have also been sharing their knowledge, resources, input, labor in one way or another, and how this particular sector also or it can contribute for our growth. The way we are, our population, growth, expertise, skills, what we have internally, it is quite amazing, wide range. But the challenges of coming together are also equally well known. That is also not a rocket science. So if we can find a way, so my line, what I am trying to put forward or show or address via this is if we can find a way to create a so-called win-win situation by which the people, those who are looking forward to Auroville in terms of learning landscape and many learning requirement what Auroville has, if we can try to match it in some way, if we could organize ourselves up to that extent, because many activities on that nature projects are happening where this two-way learning can benefit us immensely. Something more on those lines, I am trying to keep it. So planning is an act of synthesization, hence act of yoga. This also I realize after being for more than 10 years in planning, how challenging it is. So because it is synthesization, all the layers, whether the layers of the land, water, soil, percolation, all multiple layers, social, human behavior, famous human factor, multiple things which come, all of them needs to be synthesized together. And this is more of also my personal reading, hence it is an act of yoga. Also not so simple. I mean, things are not supposed to be simple here either way. So envisioning and developing integral planning and development capacity. I'm using the word capacity here particularly. The 50 years what we have done, what happened, if we can term it as a phase one, there has been a physical living base or a physical plane preparation, which is incredible resource, living proof of how degraded environment which was there can be revived, which is a very good message even not only for us, for even rest of the world. We have entered clearly, we have already entered into an organizational phase, which we can call also Mother's Integral Education framework if we see physical, mental, vital, spiritual and psychic. So even if we relate with that, we are clearly entering into an organizational stage where we need to learn how to organize better, as simple as that. So I'm just trying to link 3-4 elements, aspects together. So it's a bit mixed again, so I hope you can relate well with that. This, what is happening today is another living lab test opportunity for co-creation, the way I see. Many such efforts have happened in the past. So this also I keep quoting and saying it's a very simple practical thing. Either you have a proposal or you have to follow somebody's proposal. This is a normal what happens in life in any situation, as simple as that. When your mother even asks at times in the house, what would you like to have for dinner? So if you have something, you just say it. Otherwise, she will anyway cook something, which you will have to eat. So in this case, as a community, as a society, if we have some say, we need to learn how to come together, organize, collaborate, and bring it out in a proposal range. Not too diverse a thing. So we should also be able to cook our dish. Otherwise, it is very complicated. We have a history of 50 years learning all that. So Auroville needs to evolve organizational system in much more enhanced, effective way to meet its internal and related bioregional development, contextual needs and challenges. It's a natural need for an hour. So I'm trying to relate 2-3 things together. I hope it makes some sense and input for the people working on this. How external situations are mirroring the need to learn to collaborate, I have already emphasized, and creating a culture of collaboration for better organization. I'm taking to take you to the one of the first, the rather recent study which was done. So I have been collaborating with one particular planning institute called School of Urban and Regional Planning, Canada, in Kingston. They have come to Auroville for 5 years. I did few winter programs with SEPT also. Many other colleges have been coming, but in a bit different note. Learning exchanges have been of different order. My exchanges with the students in different form, got a chance to interact, talk to more than 25,000 1,000 students while I am in Auroville. Many people have been collaborating on those. So, but more substantial ones, what I would call, have been some of these. So, there were 5 studios. The first one was, so this also, first one was mirroring the input which came from also Mr. Doshi. So, I will come to that. So, how Auroville's outreach approach and surrounding visitors and impact rapidly increasing tourist and visitor related activities. These activities relate to Auroville's growth direction, planning development, green belt, village growth, economy employment, learning activities, Auroville's further higher education, security, mobility, resource use. This is in reference to the previous study which I mentioned, Auroville's tourist management framework. How many people use or share this area? Approximately. So, learner short term, those who have been coming, guests staying in Auroville, these are approximate numbers which have been acquired from various sources within Auroville. The workers, we are touching more than 6,000 workers, volunteers and interns, Auroville population approximately in 6 villages in the green belt, with which this is the setup with which we are sharing this area. So, this is yearly. So, there is a bit of a glitch you can say when we relate to Auroville population. So, either we multiply it by 365, I am not sure, but this is to give you an indicative reference, what is the contextual. Another interesting thing is, till when this study was done, there were almost 7 lakh plus visitors which were coming per year. And if you put that into this context, this yearly population is, it really dwarfs that. So, that shows you the dynamics when we talk about ground realities. So, we are sharing the resources, area, activities which is generating mobility, change in land use pattern, water consumption, solid waste management, all multiple things which we are discussing. This is already in a much greater operation which is happening presently. You may identify this. I referred to this yesterday. Some of you might have visited. You know Hoj Khas? It was a very poor, unorganized village. How shiny it is. It happened in, I don't, less than 10 years. It might have picked up this. Another image. Anybody, any guess? Yay. So, this is, Tento is here, board. I happened to go there. I had my family visiting, so I needed something. I went to Koilapaliyam. There was a more than 20 minutes, more than half kilometer jam.
Last week.
Yeah. Fine. So, we can always say, we can argue that this is only happening 3 days, but I don't think so. This is a pattern which is picking up and it will keep on picking up more and more. Huge. So, there is a proper jam. I had to park my bike on the side, wait. Then I used phone and camera to, I said I will record this just to see. Proper, you can see full jam. Still far away from almost close to Koilapaliyam main downtown or bakery side till further here. Many eateries, somebody was saying, people have counted, I don't know, some 70, 80 eateries, eating joints between Koilapaliyam and which is not touching almost Certitude side. So, it's a very flourishing situation. When we talk about ground reality, it is something you cannot wish to ignore. These elements are dictating many of the planning related episodes in and around. So, the point I am trying to make, we need to develop our capacity to take care of our internal affairs. So, something like this could be a test case. If we don't flux our planning muscle in terms of learning how to collaborate, our capacity to interact, deal, or even take care of these forces which are very much around today, they will all increasing at a much greater and rapid pace. We will not have that capacity, as simple as that. So, this is to be also kept in mind. We cannot wish it. The situation is not same in 1968 how things have started. It is changing. So, what is Hoj Khas village? Apart from all these things, all artists, freelancers, small business, all this has come. Sounds very familiar what is happening within 1 kilometer, 2 kilometer from here. This is some images from Hoj Khas. Some of you may have visited, I guess. So, the major concerns are haphazard land use, narrow streets, violation of building codes, litter from emergency services along the lanes, unsanctioned building plans, unchecked commercialization, improper solid waste management, insufficient sewage infrastructure. So, this is what is happening, but the people, those who study planning, development and related concerns, this is very normal. This is not a rocket science. This is the way development, particularly in South, in India, not South India, but in general South has been happening like this. So we are in the middle of, as I mentioned, if you see from Mahabalipuram to Pondicherry, it's a recreational belt. So Auroville is a green park for that recreational consumers. You like it or not. What is our response? This is what we are trying to figure it out or work towards. But all the people, those who come to Pondicherry, a daily visit, a larger visit, longer visit, activity engagement to Auroville is a given fact. How all this also contributes to the economy of Auroville is also, I think, fairly well known. Perhaps a bit more articulation of that can happen. Our guest houses, vehicle rentals, mobility, all these many activity, our eateries which are full, all this is catering to a large emerging visitor requirement. And it's very real. There is nothing artificial about this. Sharing of resources, consumption of water, energy, all this is directly linked. I touched upon this point yesterday. We are in a super tight, super rather hot emerging development context. Idea is not to scare anybody, but also not to be so naive as if we are dealing with only a small population with small concerns of issue. No, that is not the case here. Your access roads which you have seen, they are not fit to take care of requirement of, as and when we are 50,000, the surrounding area will be easily 5 lakh plus or more. None of the existing road can take care of any of this road. On this day when I was shooting this video, somebody, known Aurovillian staying there, they told me till 11 o'clock in the morning they had 3 accidents. It's a matter of time, bit more fatal accidents will happen, may happen, and that will again strain our relationship with the surrounding villages because we are the drivers of this growth. So equations are going to change very dramatically. This is already happening. We don't pay that level of attention to these things, but this is happening. I don't know if we can show, somebody can show from Livelihood or what is the land purchase map, who has bought the land in this area. My personal kind of guess is the available free land here, whatever it is, 80% of that might be by the third party, not related to either village, not to Auroville, mostly hospitality sector, some rich people for farmhouses. My guess is most of this is already gone. You don't know it today, that's all. One day when they will start building, you will see ground floor, first floor, third floor, they will come within 5 to 10 years. As simple as that, it's not very far. And then we are talking about sharing of resources, water table, huge development. It's a matter of time, it's not very far. And these concerns have been expressed in different forums in Auroville since beginning. But I think we had a certain planning level, a skill capacity. It's a very real life challenge what we deal with here. This I had touched, so I'm not going. So this is a likely scenario. So roads are getting shaped up already here. 3-4 roads are getting connected. This is also getting connected. All this is quite also plotted here if you go for cycling or drive in this area. Most of this is quite taken care. So this is our also part of ground reality and development context. Vidyan Chavdi, how it is growing. So typically all the kind of shops, development, selling of property, restaurant, same hodgepodge behavior. This is a cafe, food, wood, all this is coming. This was a study done by one girl while she was in Lavenia long back, so I just associated with her. This I showed yesterday how it is growing. There was another study which was done, the growth management framework. So I have been concerned, and why I have been concerned after leaving so-called, let us say, taking a step back from active planning engagement, not being a part of the group. It is very much clear. The work profession is dear to my heart. Auroville is also, like all of you. So I thought I could use my whatever temperament skill to get the planning level input studies for Lavenier or communities. As and when our society, community is ready, you have something ready in your hands, you don't have to start digging the well when you are thirsty. That will not work. That is not a very intelligent sign. So in my own capacity, in association and some collaboration, so I have been working on some studies. Not trying to say I am the only one. Many people have been working in different ways in Auroville to contribute toward this study. Now, how do we take these studies forward and ahead that organizational and institutional gap remains? And that's a challenge. There is no dearth of studies. Absolutely. We have a huge talented the people's gathering here. So if we can figure that out, I think that remains our challenge or the equation of human unity. So this, whatever I am showing you the studies which are with me or mostly what I am showing, I have them ready with me. I have passed it on to Lavenier, organizer of this event or gathering. I have sent you something today. More if required, just come with your pen drive or hard disk. More than happy to provide. One of the point which became very clear, and this was highlighted also by Mr. Doshi, I would like to mention, during his first interaction. Need of social landscape places. How and when do you meet in this community with each other in a relaxed way? Do you meet with a group of people, not personal friend? So we might not have realized because we are living in a nice, tightly pressed environment many a times. We know the challenges also. But if you see the way we interact is this, we can always express as we want, all kind of freedom is exercised here. We publish this, many people work towards this. We have this, we have Auroville radio which can record many things. Many things. These are just to show these are the ways in which we have been interacting. Even the meeting of this, what is happening today, it is a very agenda oriented. Information is being shared. We are learning, exchanging, but it has a focused goal which is absolutely fine. But the point which came out also during the interaction with Mr. Doshi, our so-called decision making system is very participatory. But we are not meeting with other people of community in any relaxed setting ever. We are always meeting in some meetings and gathering. Agenda is heavy on your mind. You have to put your point across. So the chances of learning and exchanging becomes very poor and thin. Because I have to communicate this point and then I have to go. I have some other things to do. So is with everybody. So this need was recorded. So this is also my input to the people, the architects, those who are working on this. So a need for social interaction landscape places is one of the key here in Auroville. If that can be incorporated by creative ways in design, I think that is the one point. So our knowledge resource system is very rich, but how we interact with each other, we are quite tough, no, on each other. This was the last studio I did with the Sept Winter School. It was Crown Urban Design. This also is available. I'll be happy to share the kind of information which was provided to them. We took two sectors because development is concentrated here. So if you try to tackle them, again a small mini lab and develops all these facilities, maps, whatever data is available, I'm happy to pass it on. Or when you work later further, this is an introductory level presentation. If you want to interact, I'm around, I can interact later. Where are the community facilities, list key of community spaces, where are they located? All those basic material was prepared by our office and it was shared. And this is, this may be a bit interesting to the architects. So this is Roger's galaxy plan, the part of Crown design, fine, if you see. What Roger himself detailed out later, he detailed out two zones, cultural zone and international zone. So that detailing is reflected here. This became this, fine. Then this is DDP by Luis Feducci. He was given by Lavenier. I don't know how many people have seen that, studied it. Is it part of the package which has been shared or somewhere as a resource material? I would personally recommend that you should look into that. I find it, we may of course disagree on multiple points, that is not critical issue here. One of the very good study I liked personally, what he had done or at least attempted, he has tried to integrate all the layers, whatever has been given to him from Auroville, water, soil, mobility. So the way he has tried to put together and produced very, very detailed, very thorough work. So I think it is worth seeing, referring. So it is good if you see that's quite a lot of resource material and chances are I'm missing out few others which others may have. And this is our existing ground situation. It might have gone a bit more up. So we had taken this stretch because this is the need. I mean, if you see sector 1 and 2 are developing, if we can demonstrate here, if we can weave something, so that is the need. This is from his Luis Feducci's work, very detailed, he calls it land development unit, specific parameter, coding, number of people, areas, height, ground coverage, everything, all it is there. So, there are 2 books. This is a kind of a detailing. These are the plot boundaries, the way he has found out. These red are the numbers, codes for each plot. So, if people have not seen it, I would suggest have a look. Key community spaces where they are located, just to see in relation with each other. There is another work which was done also by Bankim. He was 2000, after 10, 11, I guess, something like that. Sector 1 and 2 studies, how different facilities are in how much walking areas. So, this study is also reasonably resourceful if people want to have a look. Another learning activity which I had seen, Auroville Green Practices Group Consulting had started long back. Most of you may be here that time. They had organized a bicycle friendly Auroville. So, the point I am trying to make, many learning activities, the outcome of these have been useful to Auroville in one way or another. So, if we can align, there is a huge learning, what would you call, community waiting outside to be engaged with us. So, if you know how to tap, so like if your sockets are ready, the people can come and help charge. So, if we can create that possibility, I think that would be a very good possibility.
In this one, we had used Dreamweaving.
Yes, so good that you pointed it out. There was a one more with the Canadian students I had done. So, Auroville Sustainability Indicators. I did in all 4. One was the Crown, Auroville Sustainability Indicators, Green Belt Settlement Planning Parameters, Urban Framework. So, how the exchange has been, all this is a part of learning exchange, as well as this also has been providing to economic sustenance to many of us. This is the interaction happening of Canadian students with the then planning group. Saurav was part of this member, Toby is there. So, all the inputs, so all this has been, these have been, I would say, rather well organized. All input, diverse input, different viewpoints, sessions, lectures, talk, visits, all that has been happening the way it happens in, I would say, in any decent college. So, the point I am trying to also highlight via this is, these are all activities which are happening in Auroville. So, this is a bit of, if you see carefully, in the name of work, test, it is a very open learning environment, open university kind of a system. So, if we see from a learning society perspective, it is a very rich scenario, and if we take that line and we use the component of learning for how do we learn or relate with each other while co-creating, and the input which can come via this for Auroville's manifestation, further research, I think that area is quite huge. These were IIT Roorkee students, those who came for one sustainability program. They are in solitude. Okay, this is either double. Sept, they were also seeing farm as well as wood here. This is Sacred Grove with Manu. This is construction, the lime construction. So, huge number of resources. So, some of them have been for a short visit. That is not the point I am trying to put across, but there is a huge resource possible which we can tap into and we can develop. Many of them are looking for topics which can contribute to Auroville also. I know personally in Lavinier it is not easy to go deeper into the research by the existing team or any existing team, not this particular, because there is a fair amount of firefighting which happens. So, the temperament to work on any topic in detail, generally the point energy gets missed out. It is not easy. So, the support could be also created. Some workshops which have been happening. These were also, I think, Canadian students. Another component, I am just highlighting, this is one last point here, is these were the engineers, those who came for a workshop, alternative construction workshop. So, what we tried to do, this is just continuation of the previous point. They wanted to learn alternative construction technology. These are engineers from Bilaspur, Chhattisgarh, and Nandanam. Shailaja has designed it, but they also had a need. They also had a need of one more boundary wall or something. So, we worked out a system which was win-win-win for all. So, Nandanam got his boundary wall. They wanted to extend a bit for children, and this boundary wall and the whole experience was designed as an alternative construction workshop. So, even the engineers got what they were willing to learn. The school got its wall literally free, the whole campus. So, there was a good learning exchange. So, like this, these are smaller dimension, what I am trying to say. I am sure many other people might have done much bigger work. All this is out of educational activities and exchanges both in hard and soft copies. This is the hard work which has happened. Multiple soft level inputs are available. So there is a huge potential if we align, if we organize ourselves, the studies which we are not able to do, or even for the future, I think that's synthesization can be developed. This was the work which was done with Canadian students, capturing the spirit of the crown, consideration for social spaces in Auroville. So the work what they have done, the guideline, how the notes could be created, I'll share that book again, the full book is there. So the people, those who are working, you can have a look and see what is relevant for you to develop your design consideration for that. Towards that again, there has been a long talk for many, many years, integral design course in Auroville. Helmut has also written 2-3 page note, many people have worked, Mr. Doshi also talked about. So if we, the point I'm trying to make, if we take a learning society approach, it has a very good potential to link, which can keep it at the center of it. Development is anyway happening around it in multiple way, and this can also give input for different activities in Auroville. This map is already shown, so this was done by Prashant in Sangat, Mr. Doshi's office, when all the layers were superimposed. So this is our, just to highlight why I am showing you this is, Mr. Doshi had mentioned very interestingly that your decision making structure is very participatory. So how do you create institutional memory systems around this? So the exhibition which I showed yesterday, part of that, I have shared the file link with Helen, is that there should be a place. So I think I would personally see and prefer if, apart from other things, if we could keep some place here which is a good reference. I'm not saying the reference, final reference, creative expressions and diversity is always welcome. But there could be a possibility where our community, the people, those who are there, those who join, they have some reference. So we don't have much physical references. So that also creates personal narratives, sometimes a bit too wild. So for our community, it is good if we can create the references, the exhibitions in some place related to planning. I'm showing you some of the studies which were there. This is the Luis Feducci's study which he did. This is one urban design study for the crown. I don't know if you are familiar. This was, did Lata present part of this?
Yeah, she mentioned.
She mentioned. So there is a study on the crown done by the then Lavenier members. I think Lata, Anita and all, they were part of this. So this study is also available for your reference. Mobility, you have seen. He presented already, dream catchers. There was one more, I think Anita, Lata mentioned about this. They have done an interesting work also in residents brainstorming session, what are the facilities required. So if you see this report also, the people, those who are working, you will see how you can integrate some of those requirements which can develop as a response while working on the crown. I think it is easy to match. This is existing and condition report of residential sector 1 and 2 by Bankim. This report is also available. So all this resource material is available, I think should be available to you to go through. This is a paper by Helmut. I think he has discussed already on public spaces and development of Auroville's crown. Huge amount of database which you have already shared. I don't know, you might have taken from here, I guess, because this is already well compiled on mobility. It's a huge, for a city of this size and scale, the number of studies which are available, it is quite incredible, absolutely. So the synthesization of that or taking key point is careful task is to be done. There are some resources on integral planning in Auroville Wiki. This is AIH, our health center. So how they had also developed the response to the crown. What we have is this building here. So they had also thought, so maybe at some point in time, some interaction with Helmut may not be a bad idea. I already mentioned about the exhibition. This exhibition was supposed to be so-called permanent kind somewhere. We have still not reached, so that the reference is available to the community. So there were idea of even solar kitchen plaza, those activities. So some of these things on the crown and social landscape places. So these are some of the inputs which are there. I'm sure you might have thought in your own ways. What are the needs of community and both present. These are the markets which have been happening. Nobody would have thought that this can also happen here. This was part of this SEPT Urban Design Studio. So they had brought whole model of Kalpana, how this is relating. So all this was organized. This was a visit, the architect of Kalpana, explaining the whole, how the design principle, material choice, everything. Then Suhasini also explained to the same group Humanscape, because it is also on the crown. So what is, how it has been designed. So all these inputs, this kind of possibilities, they exist. So if we can make use of them, just put it there, one of the material in the study, but if you people already have seen access, it's fine, up to the Dreamcatchers team to show. So these are some of the activities. If we see how our social interactions have been happening in community, different type of activities. This is also from some fair, some play in youth center. So if part of these activities, this is I think from circus area, I guess, isn't it? Circus part, no? So whether they can be there or some part of this in, around, side. Basically, if all of these images, I am not trying to show what they are doing, but a need of community gathering space, I think, is very much required here. The point was also, if you have a possibility of interacting with people in a much relaxed setting, chances are you will have a better dialogue. This famous dialogue of also Mr. Doshi in a film, which is there, no? Purpose of architecture is to generate dialogue. So if you replace the building or architecture, also the spaces and experiences. So if you could have the possibility of that dialogue in a relaxed setting, the chances are our harder meetings will get a bit softened and we may be able to make some more progress effectively. So it is to be seen in that context. So if social landscape places are taken into consideration, this is also, there are some of the places where our social activities have been happening of a kind. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi Lalit, I'm Raj. But I'm a little bit disappointed not seeing some of the things that actually happens in Auroville. For example, you talked about social landscape. I absolutely agree with you. We need to have more of those, bit of a letting the hair down and having a conversation a bit more. But I do know that number of potlucks happens in Auroville. They're really well known. And I am in at least 2 potluck on a weekly basis. So there are plenty of things happens, just whether you're available, number one. I found that people in Auroville are quite busy with potlucks and so many other things. So, there are other things happen, so I absolutely agree with you.
In my reading, you are only reinforcing my point. You are only you are reinforcing, because these things have been happening, and if we could provide a bit more different, I'm not saying better organized organization, but let us say more places for these occurrences, the chances of community interaction, healthier interaction will increase. So when you can sit across a person and talk about the issues which may be heavy to your heart, at least there would be a possibility to see each other's perspective in a relaxed setting as against in a 1-hour meeting when you have to give your opinion and go out. So then that time your state of mind is, I think, a bit different. That is the premises. So yes, we should increase more, and I have been to some of these potlucks. We have also been organizing potlucks in Courage, which is one of the biggest community of Auroville, perhaps maybe the biggest. So being a member of that community for almost 14 years, so we organize many potlucks. So I am aware of the community living flavors. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Lalit. I would say that the need of peaceful and meaningful exchange of ideas in a relaxed context is actually the need of the hour. And I personally feel very much comfortable when it happens in the open. Yeah, of course, due to maybe environmental constraint, it can be also good in a closed environment. But this goes together also with the idea of the plazas and so on, which should be always part of, seen also as that. Now, coming to the Dreamweaving, I'm so glad, sorry to say, not to be part of the design team, because you guys, you have something immense in front of you. And I'm amazed at the quantity of studies and data and so on. So my question to the Dreamweaving architects is, not to you, I just thank you for your input. How are you going to do? I mean, the task is, no, it's on a practical level. are you going to sub-working groups, small groups? How you divide somebody is going to take care of the mobility in each group? I'm just curious. I'm sorry. Maybe you don't, depending on what's in the room next. Thank you.
Even before you finish the sentence, Omar is about to print a plan there.
I'll speak to you later about that one because we're talking about this.
Yeah. Now, the point, if I just put it, there's a huge amount of input available. And we are familiar, and I think perhaps one of the things could be if we relate, we agree on what are the community's requirement in that sense, both immediate and in foreseeable future. Around those thematic areas, design expression could be vary, but if we take care of those key concerns, key elements, I think that will be a nice way to reflect upon or build on.
With all these studies that you have had done, I was just wondering, because something which I haven't heard in the last couple of days is the projected amenities which will be needed for the next couple of years, next whatever, 10, 20 years, and sort of the spread of them, which maybe that we can figure out, but it would be very helpful, at least for me, to know like what kind of amenities are going to be required. Is there any study done on that?
You are talking about within Auroville context?
Yeah.
Within, okay, so one of the study I think is this residents brainstorming session. Perhaps that has something, which was done by the Lavinier of Anita's and there are some other people. So that study has. Bunkim's study of sector 1 and 2, that also has. So now, how do we relate and come to some common ground about what is required? That can also be a subject of creative debate. On some count, we may be already over providing few facilities, but on another count, we may be having less. So how do we go ahead with this? Maybe we start with some list which is already available, and something can be bounced to different organizational or groups. Actually, some amount of, I would say, very thought out, detailed, elaborated discussions are not there on some aspects. So like I would imagine input should also come from groups like FMC, the school, sports, other groups. So those compilation of all of them in a very fine format, I am not sure if it is there, but something is there. See, again, there are two things. If you go by the planning number wise, you can easily assess. We had done long back, I don't remember offhand, that for this much population, for this scale, for this node, for this activity, you may need this kind of facilities. So that exercise has been done multiple times. But if you see Auroville, in some areas, we are rather too much well provided. We may be ahead of any normal standard system. But in other areas, we may be lacking. So something like this. And the whole thing is also linked. So the input at this point would be to the people working. You will have to see many things linked. Why I started touching the first part of even regional and tourist infrastructure, but because the impact of that, the nature of activity, the way people are coming to Matre Mandir, economy it is generating, and their requirement, which may be seen also as developing our service nodes, they are directly linked. They are directly linked. So we cannot wish it away or compartmentalize too easily. So things are linked. So if we can develop the habit and ability of linking and providing them, I think that is the way we can make some inroads or secure what is to be developed. If something particularly comes to my mind, I'll share with you or organizers. Rajiv.
Yeah, thank you for a wonderful presentation. My question was, actually there were two comments. One was, I think you have a lot of social spaces. You have all kinds of facilities which don't exist, as you rightly mentioned, in most other parts of the country, in most cities, most towns. The problem is they're all dispersed. There is no concentration of things that at one point, a lot of things come together. People, by chance, encounter each other because they have to visit that place.
I agree.
And so if you had one place which was concentrated, which everybody had to pass through or had to sort of visit and pick up stuff from there or whatever, or it was a meeting place, things would automatically sort of spread from there.
I agree.
And I think that's a major this thing. The other one is that when you have such large spaces, you also need population. So, I mean, dispersal and lack of population or critical mass of population both lead us to the kind of situation that you're talking about.
Absolutely.
The second point that I wanted to make was about, I've been seeing so many wonderful ideas. I've been seeing from the past 3 days, we've been seeing ideas after ideas after ideas, and I keep wondering, is there no mechanism that exists? Is there no backbone of management and organization that says, okay, here are great ideas, okay, now which ones of these let's start implementing? So the gap between trying to implement something and then that starts connecting to your economy, to the finances, to not only about the idea or design, but it talks about all these linkages which are absolutely missing. I mean, it seems to me that it's like a regime change, every couple of years there's a regime change and everything starts from scratch.
Sort of.
And so you end up by not doing anything. I mean, we have a wonderful library. That's all we're going to have. So I feel that unless we put into place that backbone that says these are critical areas for us and we need to take action, they may not, even if they're haphazard and they're not exactly according to plan, but there'll be life. What's happened is that because of that, it's robbed of any life or chance to make things happen. So those are the 2 points after looking at your presentation.
This is very, I think super appropriate, and that is the context we have been living in, many of us. So just to also paraphrase in a different way, my own reading is, if I particularly refer to the first part of my presentation, how the surrounding development is very, very strongly dictating the terms, you like it or not. It is dictating the terms. So I refer it to our capacity, our ability to relate with that and come together. So I think we just don't have now the luxury of holding our own preferred viewpoints and perspective. We just don't have that luxury. We have been utilizing that freedom in that sense. I don't think we have that anymore. Already things are getting quite compromised and different level of upheaval or internal unrests are very visible. All this I relate, if we work out a system, we commit to that we work out a platform or a system where we can lay down all the things full buffet. These are the different, even differing ideas. This is community need requirement, not only for now, for next 20 years, because the development which I have shown and highlighted, they are going to impact very strongly for long term. Absolutely. So if we can relate with that, maybe it is there where people like you with a professional background and experience can also help us, because I think without that kind of a system in place, people have been trying. Like I always have high regard and sympathy for the people, those who have been passing through the doors of love in here in their own good interest, but this is where we have reached so far. So, but from now onwards, in order to change the gears, like this particular workshop, this opportunity is again one of those golden chance. If we can figure out a way to integrate our differences and align the forces somehow. That's a very real life challenge, absolutely. And again, I go back to, if we can't do it, you already have a proposal.
We have one last question.
Yeah, it ties very much in with what Rajiv just said. And you responded when, in all your compilation of all the work that has been done, I always missed something which was, I think, in January 2019, Auroville A Way Forward, which was, for me, next to the retreat in 16 and all, but it was such a tremendous experience of Aurovillians from all walk of life, all nationalities, a lot of participation from local Tamil Aurovillians coming together for a week and working on governance, water, planning, guided with the input of really internationally practicing renowned planners and architects. And somehow it almost fell completely true. It's not mentioned anywhere somehow, and it's not really a question, but it was great because it was 1 week and there was such an opening, and suddenly this is all gone. And it's not mentioned anymore, and sorry, maybe you overlooked it.
I think you are referring to retreat, no?
No, 2019, Auroville A Way Forward.
January sessions, I think.
You had Joachim Eble from Germany, Herbert Dreiseitel on water, and it was such a wide event. And it was like I know Omar and all, they worked on something which was like holistic town planning. And I was like, wow, if that's possible in 4 days, why are we not carrying on? And immediately after that happened, it was buried so deep somewhere. And maybe you found it again. I don't know.
This is, I think you are hitting the point very well. And in a way, Rajiv is also highlighting. And I'm not saying let this be the last presentation. There are many more people. But this point, I mean, keep on producing the studies is not giving me an extra joy. I have been doing it because I could see Lavinier will not be in a position to do this. I'm in a position because I like it and this relates well. Let this input be there on the table. When we start discussion, there is something there to start discussion. You don't start digging the well. Just you have some material to go through this and develop. So we as a society have not reached that organizational point. So this workshop may also enter into those waters. This workshop may, because what will you do? 4 people, super enhanced, there is a challenge, something is hanging. If you don't do, somebody else is ready to do. We have seen that season. So you will produce something. I have full faith and best wishes. I'm sure something will come out amazingly well. But if it is going to be the, again, repetition of the same cycle, it is not fun. It is not helping us go forward anyway. So it's a real life challenge if we can make a breakthrough of that kind. I think it is more of a that. So it's a real test of our community, our abilities, capacities to come together and do creative work. Individually, we are very creative. Collectivity has been challenging task, no?
Well, this was, I mentioned it because it was such a collective effort.
But again, not to demean that, our capacity to carry forward collective works has been not so great. It's a very real life observation. Yes, Peter.
Dreaming, the official dreaming of the galaxy in pure. And that was a big drama at that moment. It was really at a very difficult moment also. So many political things came together. And from that time onwards, now it's a good that you remind us, this politicization, but on a spiritual or whatever ideological ground, that started at that time because one side was shocked by an input from outside which was fairly neutral or not neutral because it was maybe too green or too ecological, whatever you say it. But I mean, these points have to come to the table, and this is the occasion now to do it. And I'm not on any side, but it's a main issue which is always cutting us since 40 years in two.
Just a thought about the process of taking it forward. I mean, you've been in Lavinier, and many people here have been in Lavinier, and it's like an official, planning body. But apart from that, I wonder if there could be like there's a water group, or like there's a group which is a little bit more open in the sense, has the time and the energy which is not pressured. Because Lavinier is always, the external, internal pressure is going through, but a body or a group that really looks at, putting together this research, putting together these ideas, just kind of connecting the dots of the studies.
I can give my present day practical kind of a situational response. But I feel the emerging situation, if we have people like Rajiv and his team, fine, they can be the reference. They can help us in certain things, certain prioritization. So whatever input we have to provide, whatever even data we have to provide, if we can take it through them, so like they become your technical partners of a certain kind. It's fine. So lots of material idea, what are the community needs, requirement, we are aware. So if we can bring it all together and complete the cycle, what I have seen, many a times we have not been able to complete the cycle. We have not been able to complete the circles. So there, it is like always open-ended affair. So that has been very challenging. So if we could work on those elements also, where community could be engaged, and I think it is possible. It is not a rocket science, but to hold the space for next 1 year, I will put it that, hold the space, then people also commit. And if they need some support, the support should be provided of any kind, whatever, even if maintenance, anything, whatever is needed. Because if people are not available to put that kind of energy, then again it is left to few. Few can do something else. So it becomes a very complex affair. So it is a kind of collective resolve issue also, to be available and work on it.
Thank you, Lalit, for both your presentations. So my question is around, like you mentioned yesterday also about how in planning it has to be, zoning and in zones or in phases. Like when it comes to planning, we do the planning in zones and phases. So as per your understanding and expertise, what would you suggest the need of the hour when it comes to creating spaces? Like the need of the hour in terms of, do we need more of residential or institutional and etc. So, and why?
Well, I don't know which comment of zoning you are referring. I just mentioned there are zones in Auroville, but they are predominant land uses. They are not isolated or rigid zoning concepts, the way I see. So it is to be seen in that context and elaborate. And already if you see there are multiple things happening in different communities. We have residential pockets. We have to also see what we are today is, though important, but a small number of population is there and much more is to be accommodated. So planning's job is also to make sure, at least to ensure that there is a provision for the future growth and development. So that is the one part. Second part is what is required today. I feel, of course, this social landscape places, the combination of that, bit more living together experience, taking the point of Rajiv further. So we are still quite scattered. So living together teaches you or opens you to some other dimension. So the way we are living today, it gives us a certain freedom / luxury of avoiding each other. So in a way, we are postponing our learning. So if the conditions, circumstances, by designs are also created that people have an opportunity to interact with each other, this can perhaps pave the way for healthier discussion, interaction. And I think if that dimension or that environment is created, that can lead to a better creation. This is somehow I also see. So that is the one level. If we can create the condition for holistic dialogue of some kind. This is one. Institutionalization of few things or the facilities is, of course, I believe that would be helpful. We are very rich in terms of talent as a community. So if that can also be taken to next level, everybody is making various individual efforts, and I can see and sense many people are also tired. Many people are tired, they're putting their energy also outside. So if we can find a way to utilize that talent and channelize that energy and resources, people are very resource rich in terms of what context and possibilities they have.
Okay.
So if we have a framework, if we can develop that framework in which people can give their input, energies back to Auroville in an organized way, I think that will be a great solution if we can work towards it.